everyone, and welcome to ProWritingAid 101 for business writers. I'm Micah McGuire, ProWritingAid's Growth Marketing Manager, and today I am joined by Tom Wilde, our Head of Client Solutions. It is fantastic to see you all here today. We have a great session in store. For today's agenda, we are going to be covering the most important tools and reports for business writers, and this includes our real-time checker and goals sidebar, our summary report, and then what I like to call our readability trio. So this is 3 different reports. They're going to help polish your writing and make it super easy to read, which we all know is super important when it comes to any kind of business communication. So this includes our readability report, our sticky sentences report, and our style report. And in conjunction with that, we're going to be talking about our newest feature, which you may or may not have heard about, which is Rephrase. We are all super excited for this on the team. This is basically a new GPT-powered tool that will help you write better, faster, and edit better, faster. Now, of course, we want this session to be powered by what you guys would like to know. So if at any point during the walkthrough you have questions, please go ahead and put them in the Q&A. We will have about 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the session. Our goal is to get you out in about 40 to 45 minutes today. So we're hoping to get you a little bit of extra time back in your day. So we'll have that 5 to 10 minute session at the end for Q&A. And if for some reason your question is not answered, please feel free to go ahead and send it in to hello, HELLO, at ProWritingAid.com. Just put in the subject line that you are an attendee at today's Business 101, and we will make sure to get back to you as soon as possible. All right, Tom, I think that covers all of our housekeeping. Let's go ahead and jump right into the walkthrough.
Sounds good. Thanks, Micah. Hi, everybody. Great to have you along. As Micah explained, my name is Tom Wilde. I'm Head of Client Solutions at ProWritingAid. What that means is I spend most of my working days working with our clients, corporate and organizational clients. So those that are looking to bring ProWritingAid in for use in a team or an organizational setting. And quite often that's focusing on how we customize it. And there are some fantastic features that you can use in ProWritingAid to customize it specifically for your requirements. That includes things like custom rules, so style guide rules, term bases, and snippets too. And we'll touch on those towards the end. As Micah says, if you don't hold back with questions, okay, these sessions are great when they're interactive. So please do get involved and we will get straight into it. Now, I'm going to share my screen. As I do that, I'm just going to explain a little bit about the customers that I work with and where ProWritingAid fills the gap for most of them. So for many of those organizations we work with, they share very similar problems. And the reality is that many are wasting far too much time fixing their documents and improving the effectiveness of their writing. And actually what they should be doing is focusing their time and effort on the content of what they're creating, the positioning, the argument, the pitch. What ProWritingAid does is comes and sweats the small stuff for you. So it's kind of looking at a high level and a deep level as well, and making suggestions and improvements as you and your team write. And because we have lots of integrations, it's wherever you're writing, it's right by your side. And because it's customizable, it slots right in terms of building consistency among the team, ensuring they're all writing in the same style. So whatever kind of writing you're doing, ProWritingAid is going to work for you, I guarantee it. We work with academic writers, business writers, technical writers, as well as creative writers. What you can see on the screen is just our homepage. This is a great place to start. If you've signed up for ProWritingAid, if you haven't, you can do that here. If you have signed up, just go to the bottom of the page and you can see a full list of our integrations. Take your time to navigate, but just think about where you're writing. Are you using web applications? Are you using Microsoft Word? Are you using Google Docs? You will find the solution you need there. For the purpose of this webinar, we're going to focus first primarily on the web editor because it's a really easy, clear interface to show you. But ProWritingAid has a very similar look and feel wherever you're using it. So we will dive into the Chrome extension. We'll dive into the Word add-in just so you can see the similarity in all of those areas. So yeah, let's get straight into it. Right. So web editor. I've got a sample document loaded on the screen. This is just an internal memo, a report from a consulting firm. You can see, first thing to point out is some of our settings. So you can set your language variation. We only work in English, but you can set 4 different variations: British, US, Australian, or Canadian. And obviously that's going to have an impact on the spellings that are checked and the mistakes that are highlighted. But actually where the really interesting stuff happens is in reports. And again, you can access this from any of our integrations. I'm going to dive in and show you the RealTime Checker, because it's the report that 99.9% of ProWritingAid users are using every time they open the tool. What you can see is as soon as I turn it on, it's going to start counting. See the number appears? So we're counting upwards. We're finding mistakes, but also improvements. Micah mentioned readability. This is really important for ProWritingAid, okay? What we're focusing on is how to make the transfer of information from the page or the screen to your reader's brain as simple and straightforward as possible. So it will highlight lots of instances where actually you may not be grammatically incorrect, but you could say what you're trying to say in a different way, and it's going to improve the readability. So they're grouped under style highlights. So you can see there are 4 different colored highlights on the screen right now, 94 in total. And if I go to my improvements tab over here in the sidebar, I've got a filter, and I can filter among style, grammar, passive voice, and spelling. You can see the color coding there. We're going to go into all of those. I just quickly dive in before we go into some of the deeper reports.
And just something to note to everyone is that with this color coding, this is the same across all of our integrations, all of our apps. So no matter where you're using ProWritingAid, this will all be the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we'll show you what it looks like in some of those other ones in a little while. In terms of actually making changes, so accepting or ignoring suggestions, I can do that in 2 ways. Again, in any application, I can do that in the body of the document. And my preference, hey, every writer is different. We all write in different ways. We all have different habits. So how you use the editor is up to you. Some people will have it on permanently, and it will check as they type. Some people will only turn it on at the end of a section, end of a page, or whatever. I tend to work top to bottom, and I work in the main body of the document. But you can work just in this sidebar over here. In terms of actually, accepting or ignoring those changes, just highlight on, just hover on the highlight, and the message will appear. So a really obvious example here, any grammar checker, spell checker is going to spot this. You're using the wrong form of the word to. So let's just change it. To change it, we just click on the green area. We get a little bit more complex. This is one of those readability improvements I mentioned, right? You're using 3 words, managed to complete. Actually, just using 1 verb is more powerful. So just say completed. Again, you could ignore this and you'll see. I've got an ignore button here. Ignore is your friend, okay? Ignore is a one-time ignore. It will ignore that issue in that position. It will remember it for when you open this document again in the future, but it will still highlight that problem again in the next paragraph if it appears, whereas disable is permanent. So be very careful about using the disable button. If you want to re-enable a rule, you'll need to come back through our support team. I really like this rule. It's a really simple one, but it's identified the fact that you're starting 4 sentences in a row with the same word. That's repetitive. So again, not grammatically incorrect. This is a style issue, but it's a kind of thing that just leads to a little bit of a disengagement from your reader. And everything you're doing when you're writing, whether you're writing for an internal or external audience, should be focused on your audience, your reader. How do you guarantee engagement from them? How do you keep them engaged? How do you get them nodding along as they're reading your document? So here, I'm just going to make a little change the to our, manual edit. And look, it's removed those highlights elsewhere, and we can move on. The last example I'm going to show you before we move on to a different section is an example of the passive voice. Now, most people will have heard of the passive voice. Most people will probably be aware that the passive voice, although grammatically correct, is overused in business writing, and the active voice is usually better. So ProWritingAid will identify the passive voice for you, and it will suggest where it can work it out. the active equivalent. You can see it's presented two different options here, but it goes further. And this is a key differentiator between ProWritingAid and other tools out there. We're not just interested in fixing your document. We're interested in fixing you, the writer. And what I mean by that is building your skills and capability, making you a better writer. And we know how hard it can be to train people to improve as writers. So if we build in the content at the right place at the point of need, then it will reinforce your learning. So here, just by clicking on that information icon, it opens a pop-up that tells me all about the passive and the active voice. And it even includes a video embedded there, so digital content embedded. I think this one uses Jackie Chan quotes to demonstrate the difference between passive and active voice. So it's quite light, but it's great for reinforcing that learning and building your skills. Okay, I'm going to make the change. We'll move on. Now, as I said, you can make those changes in the sidebar too. You'll see I can just highlight each, accept, ignore, whatever. But actually what I really want to show you here is the goals tab. So you've got two tabs in this sidebar. Let's open goals. And goals measures writing. So this is really important because many people believe that writing is an art. We think of it as more of a science at ProWritingAid. And if we can break it down into the constituent elements and get you to focus on the areas where you need most work, then your writing is going to improve. You're going to understand not only what to improve, but how to improve it. So you'll see I've got my document type set. Now that's important because the metrics here, so the actual categories of goals, will depend on what document type you've got scored. You'll see if I set my document as a sales email, it's going to measure, I mean, grammar and spelling are still important, but it's measuring things like customer focus score. We've got what we call we-you linkers, positivity, all the kind of things that are important in sales emails. If we go back to report, it's more interested in kind of readability, style, sentence length, business jargon. And you'll see some of these I'm on target and most of them I'm not. So grammar and spelling, my target is 80% or higher, and I'm currently hitting 38%. So I'm way below target. Likewise for the other ones. Readability, that's better. So my readability target is 10 or lower. So grade 10 or lower, and I'm scoring grade 8. So that's good. That's on target, which is why that's green. Now these scores are dynamic. So if I accept or reject change or ignore changes in the document, it will adjust the score. So I'm going to make a few. You'll see this grammar and spelling score at 38%. If I make a few changes, so we've got an agreement error with the noun, plural, singular plural noun there. We've got some business jargon there. We've got, what have we got here? I think it's probably a missing comma, another missing comma. Yeah, so we're already at 41%. So I'm getting immediate feedback. Now, this is great for you, the writer, because, you know, like I say, it's giving you feedback at the point of need. You can see the improvements you're making. But lots of our customers are using ProWriting or using goals as a QA measure. So they're looking, they're instructing their teams that they need to be hitting specific benchmarks before submitting documents, whether they're, you know, whether that's a report you're sending to a customer and they're saying, hey, you've got to be on target for grammar and spelling, got to be hitting 80% for grammar and spelling before sending that to the customer. So just think about how you could use goals. It's a really versatile feature. Okay, I promised you would show you what the tool looks like in other integrations. Let's dive into Microsoft Word very quickly. So you can see I've got ProWritingAid installed on my Word ribbon at the top of the screen here. It's a really simple, easy executable file. You can just download it from the website. It's also packaged in as part of ProWritingAid Everywhere. So ProWritingAid Everywhere is our native desktop app. We have a Windows version and a Mac version. Certainly with the Windows version, it packages in Microsoft Office add-in, which works in Word and Outlook. And actually ProWritingAid itself, ProWritingAid Everywhere itself works in PowerPoint. So that's a brand new feature. So let's click on ProWritingAid. And you can see it's exactly the same UI. All those buttons all those reports I can run. I can turn on the real-time checker. Just like Micah said, it's exactly the same color coding. In fact, the only difference here is rather than hovering on a highlight, I need to click on it. And then clicking on it will bring up the message and allow me to change it in exactly the same way. Show you once again. There we go. Okay, let's dive back into the web editor. So we're now at a point where we're getting a sense for what other areas we might want to improve. And therefore, maybe which of these other reports I need to run. Now, before you do that, just a word of warning. ProWritingAid is catering for every type of writer, but not every report will be relevant to your writing. So it's really important in that first kind of month or two when you're using ProWritingAid to understand which of these reports deliver most value. And got to be honest, most ProWritingAid users are using somewhere between 2 and 5 reports on a regular basis, depending on the writing they're doing. As business writers, you're probably going to be looking at the reports from kind of sticky back through to summary, possibly with acronym as well. As a creative writer, you know, other reports like alliteration, dialogue, consistency come into play as well. Let's start by running the summary report, because this is kind of like the goals sidebar on steroids. It goes into full overdrive in terms of measurement of your document. So here's my summary report. You can see the level of detail here. I know it looks daunting, but take a little bit of time in the first few uses just to familiarize yourself, because some of these visuals are A, really simple to understand, and B, really simple to action as well. Let's just go back to the top. You can see my 3 headline scores, grammar, spelling, and style. They're always going to be at the top. Then you can see the areas where my document looks great. And we have jump links here, so you can jump straight from the readability grade level to the section of the report on readability. Very quickly, I can see, yeah, great, I'm on target, but look, still 15, maybe 20% of my paragraphs are still classed as very difficult to read. Back to the top, what we're really interested in here is the area where my document needs more work. So we know about grammar, spelling, and style. But look, sentence length, business jargon, glue index, that's a sticky sentences one that Micah mentioned, and complex paragraphs. So let's go in and have a look at a few of those. Now, Micah said we're going to show you the kind of three that make up the kind of the triumvirate of readability checks, if you like. And the one to start with is style. Style works a little bit like the RealTime Checker, insofar as it will highlight elements that you can and provide a pop-up, and you can make a quick change in the document, accept or ignore the suggestion right there.
And it's worth noting on the style report, this is not like, say, our spelling and grammar report, where it's a very black and white. This is either correct or incorrect. It's a spelling error, or it is a grammar error, or it's not. These are suggestions to help improve your writing. It is, however, your call on whether to use them. So basically, this is us saying, you know, hey, using these might make your document easier to read. Using these might make your document more engaging, but it's by no means saying, you know, hey, this is actually something wrong with your writing. So this is the report that we always tell people, you know, this really comes down to a lot of your style as a writer. And you may find things here that you go, you know, actually, I'm going to ignore that suggestion. Totally fine. It's not an error. It is an improvement suggestion.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point, Micah. It's entirely subjective elements of style, and as well as, you know, the things that whether you want to accept them or not. Think about whether they conform with your organization's style as well, because things like, for instance, the Oxford comma or serial comma, as it's often known, that's a style choice, and quite often your organization will have a view on whether you should be using it or not. And ProWritingAid will be telling you whether you're using it. So it's a really quick way, an easy way of checking consistency with not only your style preferences, but your organization's. And in fact, you can see the first item up here are style guide items found. So these are all items that I have added to my custom rule base. And it's highlighting them as, you know, as ones that I need to correct to comply with that individual style guide. You see it's grouping together everything by kind of category. So I've got all my passive voice examples here. Navigation is really easy. Click on the arrow to take you to the specific instance. You can make the change. It will score it out once you've done it. You can work down top to bottom and just work through them like that. I've got some real favorites here. Business jargon, an obvious quick win. Why am I using bandwidth when I should be saying something less jargony? I call bandwidth a waffle magnet. As soon as you start using words like that, it attracts other big words that you just don't need to use. The capacity is better. Paradigm shift actually is an even better example. I mean, that's just terrible. Let's go to that. Yeah, significant or fundamental change. Choose whichever is suitable for you. And then readability enhancements. These are your super quick wins. Okay, to be able to. I'm using 4 words when 1 would do. Rather than saying to be able to, just say to. It might not fit in every instance, in which case ignore it. But more often than not, it's going to do the job for you. So other reports are more advisory. So let's jump in and look at readability. So readability is going to give me readability statistics for my document. And we present a range because there are many different readability measures out there. The 2 that we tend to use most are Flesch Reading Ease and Flesch Kincaid grade. And you see actually that Flesch Reading Ease is used in the document. I can very quickly navigate to the most complex paragraphs in the document. Here they are, or rather the most difficult to read. And I can click on the arrow and it'll take me to it. And it'll give me a reading ease score specifically for that paragraph. 42.4, way too low. A reading ease, Flesch reading ease score should be 60 or 70 or above. Okay. So in order to improve readability, I need to focus on 2 things. One is the average number of words per sentence, and the other is the average number of syllables per word. So whichever readability measure you're looking at, they're really looking at primarily looking at 2 variables: average number of words per sentence, average number of syllables per word. So if you want to improve readability, shorten your sentences, cut down those long sentences in half or further, and simplify your vocabulary. Now, here is where ProWritingAid's latest feature, Rephrase, can really help you. Because up until this point, ProWritingAid has been all about editing. You're the writer. ProWritingAid is the editor. It helps you find and improve content and issues. With Rephrase, we're harnessing the power of GPT-3 through OpenAI to actually suggest how to rewrite some of your sentences. And this is only going to get bigger and better. It's a very fast-moving space right now. To use Rephrase, just shut this report, I can highlight any paragraph or any, sorry, if I need to turn the real-time checker on to do this, I can highlight any paragraph or any sentence and just click on the Rephrase button. Now, just a word of to be aware of regarding Rephrase. Rephrase, because it's powered by OpenAI, is not using our owned and updated language models. You're using OpenAI's language models. OpenAI handles text in a slightly different way. In fact, when it first launched, OpenAI would store and use your text to improve its models. We're very fortunate at ProWritingAid. We've recently applied and been accepted. So or rather, we've had our application accepted. So our use of OpenAI is no longer recorded insofar as text is no longer stored and it's no longer used to improve the model. So you can use it in safety, in the knowledge that it's entirely secure and private, which is a great step forward.
And also worth noting on that point, the only thing that is sent is the text that you actually highlight. So it is only done 1 sentence at a time. So even if, previously, if we had this stored by OpenAI, you would only be feeding in 1 sentence at a time. It's not as if your entire document is being sent off. So that's also worth noting, but it is also great to hear that we are now officially on the do not store list. Yeah,
absolutely. I think it was literally about 3 days ago that happened. So it's a great bit of news. Okay, you may have noticed then, as I clicked on the Rephrase button for that sentence, a pop-up has appeared. Let's do it again. pop-up appears. On the left-hand side, I can choose how I want the sentence rephrase. Just a word on these. Fluency. If you are a non-native English speaker, this is a really useful tool because it's going to help you use some kind of slightly more colloquial language, warmer language perhaps. Formal, informal, they're pretty self-explanatory. Sensory is a setting more used by creative writers. So where you want to add kind of greater descriptive richness. And then shorten and expand, pretty self-explanatory. So here, what I might do, I want to improve readability, I might just use the shorten button to look at some examples. And don't forget, there are thousands of ways you could rewrite a sentence, right? So don't necessarily accept one of these, or accept it and then modify it. Okay, you'll notice with OpenAI and all of the power of ChatGPT and GPT-3 right now, it's fantastic, but it does not understand the context as well as you do.
And it's worth noting that sometimes it's useful to look at this as more of a brainstorming tool as well. You know, don't simply accept the first, you know, kind of correct suggestion that comes along that you think looks halfway right. Sometimes it's worth looking through and saying, okay, you know, I'd like to take that sentence structure from that suggestion, that word from that suggestion, and then maybe use some of the wording in this third suggestion and kind of combine it. So you really make it your own. Also, with the Fluency tool, this is great even if you're not an English as a second language speaker, simply because it can sometimes help with transitions and flow. So if you find that there are certain sentences or certain paragraphs that you're stumbling over, that you feel like it's kind of clunky and difficult to read, often that Fluency rewording can really, really help with some of that flow and smoothing out those transitions.
And actually, that's both really good points there, Micah. Thanks for that. And on that, if you are a non-native English speaker, you are more fluent in another language, try the Rephrase tool. Write your sentence in your native language, hit Rephrase, and it will suggest rewritten versions, which will all be in English. So if you're stuck, it's a great way of, like Micah says, it's a great way of kind of using it to brainstorm and come up with the solutions, even if those ideas don't start in English. Okay.
And this is true even if the sentence is half English and half in another language. And that's really one of the mind-blowing things about this tool, is that your sentence can be halfway in one language, halfway in another, and we can still reword it for you in English.
Absolutely. And the other mind-blowing thing about this tool is that it's all entirely free to premium users. So there's no limit on how much you're using Rephrase. I get stuck in, and I would, you know, just find out for yourselves. It's a fantastic feature. Okay, from readability, let's dive into sticky. It's unique to ProWritingAid. It's another area where that Rephrase tool can come in handy. But what sticky sentences, or the sticky sentences check is doing, is it's looking at your glue scores, your glue index, which basically is based on the number of glue words you use in a sentence. Now, your glue words are the 200 most commonly used words in the English language. They are typically your prepositions, your articles that glue together the working words being verbs. It's verbs that bring writing to life, and nouns. We know from our research that if you have a high proportion of glue words in your sentence, then your sentence isn't working very hard for you. It's sticky. It's slowing your reader down. You could be more dynamic. You could be delivering that information with more impact. So if your scores for your glue index are above 40% in a particular sentence, it will be highlighted as sticky. Let's have a look at a sticky sentence. Okay, so there are 4 in this document. I'm going to dive straight into this one. It's a really simple sentence. Grammatically, it's fine. It's not particularly long, but 74% almost of the words here are glue words, and you can see them all there. And if you read them, you don't understand any context of the sentence. So this is just a way of highlighting to you that this is a sentence you should probably rephrase or edit. And if you think about it, why are you saying, for those on the board who want to get into the detail, a week-by-week timeline is here? Just get to the point. Just say, click here for more information, or something similar. So use sticky sentences report to find those points in your document that are really going to slow your reader and cause them to just, lose a bit of engagement. Okay, so that's pretty much all the reports we wanted to go through. As we've been saying all along, get into the tool, have a look at which reports you really enjoy, deliver value for you. They will be different for everybody. Use a summary report to help you do that. We're going to dive in, just have a quick word about kind of administration. So if you're working within a team or an organization that's looking at ProWritingAid, this is really important. We offer a team user management dashboard that admins can use to control the number of users. This means that you're only paying for the licenses you need, and you can transfer those among your team. So here's my ProWritingAid team. I've got people on the team who have left, as Abby did recently. I can actually remove them as a user, and then I can invite someone else to join the team. So making sure I'm using all of my available seats in my license. If I want to have a look at how engaged my team are with ProWritingAid, then I need to go to the team analytics page. By the way, all of these dashboards are available from this left-hand menu, which I can open and access from my profile page. If I just, let me just check that. So you'll see we were in documents earlier. Right now we're in teams, and now I'm going to go to team analytics. And here you can see how engaged your team are over a certain period of time. So I can look at last week and see, right, 65% of my ProWritingAid team were using ProWritingAid. Obvious dip at the weekend there. They accepted 880 improvements in that time. And we give you approximate cost savings for that time period and a time saving too, based on some basic calculations we do. You can see the same savings and improvement figures based on contract to date, as well as your bias improvements. That's a really important indicator there. Okay, let's now go in to have a look at some of the customization you can do at ProWritingAid. In fact, before we do that, just going to dive in. I mentioned the Chrome extension. Let's look at that quickly now. I'm going to show you it in LinkedIn. It's a really simple place to show you. You can see I've got ProWritingAid installed as a Chrome extension up here. It's all turned on. And as I start to type, so this could be Gmail, I could be in Salesforce, it could be one of a million web applications. What you'll notice when I've got an open text window, first of all, is this green dot. This green dot tells you that ProWritingAid is working. And then as I start typing, you'll see I've got highlights that appear to tell me I've got spelling mistakes, readability mistakes, and so on. Now, if I want more detail, if I'm maybe using this for some long form content in, I don't know, Confluence or something like that, then I could click on the ProWritingAid icon. I can open my sidebar or my floating sidebar, which looks at goals and improvements, just like it does in a full editor. And in fact, I can open the full editor, and that opens as an overlay. So my document would appear here. I can run all of these deeper reports, just like we've been doing. And then I can click on apply changes down here. And that would apply the changes back into the document. And that's your Chrome extension. Really simple. I would advise anyone, we have extensions for Chrome, Edge, Firefox, and Safari. And I'd advise you all to download and use the applicable ones. Okay, let's move on. I was going to show you a couple of details. One is really super exciting because this is even newer than Rephrase. This is our what we call our a simple style guide. So simple style guides is where you can set custom settings that relate to areas of readability and style. So for your own use of ProWritingAid, you can specify your sentence length check. So this will tell ProWritingAid to provide a highlight if there are any sentences over 30 words, any complex sentences. If I'm using passive voice, formal language, polite language. I mean, there's a lot here. So again, take your time to have a look through it. You'll find things like how to specify treatment of numbers and dates, what kind of inclusive language checks you want to appear. So there's a whole lot there. And then we get into create advanced style guides. And advanced style guides is where you can really, there's no limit. Now, we do have a couple. I do recommend you read a couple of blog posts which will help you get started with advanced style guides. They are, in fact, I think, are we posting out the links afterwards, Micah? I think that's the case. But let's have it.
Post those now. So I will.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. But let's have a quick look at how we create these. So this little plus icon will open a pop-up that gives me the fields that I need to complete to create a custom rule. I'm going to show you a couple that I've already built. One really, really basic one, and one slightly more complex. So here's one we built for the University of Pennsylvania. The brand name is University of Pennsylvania, yet all staff and students use Pennsylvania University. So we're creating a rule, a set of rules here that will identify wherever Pennsylvania University is used and suggest the replacement of University of Pennsylvania. So all I do is I write or I enter a wrong sentence. It can be any sentence as long as it's got the incorrect term or word in it. I detail the match, the specific word or phrase that I want to change, and then the replacement. So what I'm going to replace one with the other. And then I've got my message. So that's the message that will appear for the user. Now I need to test the rule. When I test a rule, it will either come back in green or red. Green is good, it means the logic works. Red means you've got a problem with the logic, and it will explain what that is. And then you can actually go in and test the rule. So let's go into a blank document. Let's add that sentence. And there we go. It's already highlighted. And as I hover on that highlight, there's the message I created, and there's the change I can make. Like I said, have a read through those style guides, the blogs that Mike has just posted. They'll give you much more detail. We'll show you one more quick one. There we go. So this one identifies the use of the word impactful, which is one of those adjectives that actually just doesn't really do much for me. There are much better adjectives to use. And this was created for a customer that had the same request. They wanted impactful highlighted, and instead one of these 5 adjectives suggested instead. Now what we're doing here is we're replacing an @ symbol between each suggestion, which will then mean that they are separated into their own clickable entities in the pop-up, in the correction pop-up. But it's not quite as simple as that, because you might notice we've got a bit of code here in the match. And what that is doing is looking for an adverb before the word impactful. So we're getting rid of impactful or changing impactful is really easy. But here we've got the adverb incredibly, which is totally unnecessary. Why do you need to say incredibly impactful? It could also be very impactful, highly impactful. It's just an unnecessary adverb. And if there is an unnecessary adverb there, our customer wanted to replace that as well and remove it from the sentence. So here we use what's called POS tagging. So POS stands for parts of speech. It's like linguistic coding. RB means adverb. So in POS tagging, RB stands for adverb. And you can find advice about POS tags anywhere on the internet. So here, by placing RB before impactful and putting it in brackets and with a tilde here, it means it's an optional match. So a non-forced match. So ProWritingAid will correct impactful. And if there is an adverb preceding impactful, it will also replace that. What that means is when I actually test the rule, let's turn off the real-time checker, add that sentence 3 times. Let's just change one of these adverbs and let's remove an adverb too. Turn on the real-time checker. Bingo, there, they're already found. As I hover over each, you can see I've got my 5 alternative suggestions, each separated into a clickable entity. And it's finding them regardless of what the adverb is, or even if there is an adverb there before.
And those of you who may have looked at how the correction was styled, that separation between which word pops up as a choice is simply done by using an @ sign. So that will give you choices for each word.
Absolutely. So there we go. You can see the @ symbol between each of the replacement adjectives there.
And that's just
okay.
To say, you know, each one is going to be a separate option here, include them all. So.
Absolutely. So we're running quite short on time, but I did just want to mention before we wrap up a couple of last, in fact, one key last feature, and that is snippets. Now, snippets, if you are using template text of any type, maybe you're in a customer service role, maybe you're in an HR role, writing job descriptions and repeatedly use the same description of the company, you can create those as snippets. So I write a lot of emails. I create many of my emails as snippets because they're doing the same job. They might be inviting new users who are taking part in team trials. Here's the snippet that I've created. I've created a shortcut there, which means wherever I'm using ProWritingAid, if I start typing the name of that shortcut, my snippets pop-up appears, and I can just drop that email in. Although, as you can see, I've actually got something being prototyped in my version today. Oh, there we go. There's my snippet. There's my email dropped in. So it's saving me a huge amount of time. Obviously, we always say, be careful using snippets. Make sure with any templated text, you're editing it for your reader, but it's a big time saver if you're using content repeatedly. And I think that brings us to the end of our session. Micah, anything that I've missed that you can think of?
Tom, not that I can think of. I think, there was one question, let me look, regarding whether we are on GPT-3 or GPT-4. And I believe we are on GPT-3, yes, with Rephrase?
We are at the moment, but, you know, our NLP team are looking at every development in this area. So we are looking at GPT-4. We're also looking at Bedrock from Amazon. We're looking at lots of different large language models. We're pretty kind of platform agnostic in that regard. So, you know, as others become better, the key thing for us is kind of processing speed. So how quickly we can deliver the results and tools, and obviously how accurate. When we're looking at the performance of these kind of tools, all about accuracy and recall. Right now we're on GPT-3, but I would imagine, we will probably move on pretty soon.
Okay, all right. I think that probably covers it. Did you want? Oh, right. Our Euro servers. Did we want to cover that development privacy side?
Yeah, great point, Micah. Let me just stop my sharing. So interesting development at ProWritingAid. You know, we serve customers from all around the world. Our servers are cloud hosted by Microsoft Azure in the US, which meets the demands of most of our customers, but not all. And because of that, we're working super hard at the moment on building a server instance in the EU. So again, it will be hosted by Microsoft Azure. It's likely to be based out of Dublin. So that should satisfy the requirements, GDPR requirements from many European and other customers too. And we're hoping that's going to come online in a little over a month. So end of June, early July time. So if that's a key requirement for you, as Micah said at the top of the call, do get in touch, do reach out to us directly. Any emails you've got specifically of a sales nature, again, come through to hello@ProWritingAid.com and they'll be filtered through to our sales team.
And another point is that if you would like a demo or anything like that, if you'd like to have Tom walk your team through a demo here that just gives you a little bit more one-on-one time than, say, we can do here, you can book one at the link I have just included. That is to our Teams page. So if you are looking to self-serve as a team, you can also purchase Teams licenses on that page. But if you are on the enterprise side of things and need that demo and have questions, then you can always book a demo and we can have you with one of our sales team.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic.
All right. Well, we have been able to get about 15 minutes back into your day. So thank you all for joining us. It was great to have you. And of course, like Tom said, if you have any other questions we weren't able to answer today, just email us at hello@ProWritingAid.com. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your